You got 1 hour.
But
They're ready. You got 1 hour.
I do want to thank all of you guys and the Native Learning Center just put on, just you guys are first class all the way. I know I've done work with you all in the past, and you're just amazing people. And as a non-Native person, I always appreciate feeling welcome at conferences and around the people that I serve. So yes, long presentation name. Oops, excuse me. Thank you. But I really wanted to I have a planning background, so my purpose for this presentation is really to try to provide something that you can, as a tribe, as a community, whether it's your planning department, your grants department, your climate or energy department, really have some tools to do internally to kind of assess where you're at, and then be able to prioritize projects based on what the community needs are, what internal capacities you have right now, and what's available in terms of like outside technical assistance, and then funding, of course. So just a little bit about me. I have over 12, I think almost 13 years of experience doing planning and economic development, land use at the state and local level and federal level. I've worked exclusively in Indian country for 10 years, almost 10 years now. I started with the federal government, and then I've had my company for about 5 years now. This summer it'll be 5 years, and it's been really nice to see my former federal colleagues here, this time with the DOE and also in the DOI, so that's been really fun. But at Sea Renewal, I do a lot of planning, everything from land use plans to natural resource plans, ag plans, emergency plans, just kind of all of the above. I do a lot of facilitation between the tribe and the state and the feds. I really try to encourage my tribal clients to make those connections with the feds and invite them out to the reservation and be proactive. So I know that there's, and I appreciate Ed earlier mentioned me, and I appreciate that. And I think we've heard from a lot of really good planners over the last couple of days, and I think it's really exciting to see so much planning going on. So for today, we're going to go through the learning objectives that really like set the framework for the presentation, and then we'll go into to the various aspects of those learning objectives, which includes the leveraging human and institutional infrastructure, maximizing opportunities, and then at the end of the day, like what can we do to really strengthen project implementation. So the first learning objective for today is to understand the objectives of leveraging human and institutional infrastructure when investing in energy and sustainability projects. And that means, really looking at like the entire landscape of opportunities available, and also evaluating where you're at internally and what are your priorities internally. Where are the different projects at? Where is your infrastructure at? Like, what truly are your needs? And then to develop, sorry, I almost went on to 3, to determine your steps for conducting those initial reviews, like based on primary and secondary data collection, utilizing the plans you have available. A lot of tribes that I work with don't have a lot of plans at this time, and that's okay. You utilize what you have and collect a lot of primary data and just start from where you're at. But I want to emphasize these are things that you can do internally or in coordination with the free technical assistance available. And also, like when I work with tribes, I'm boots on the ground. I spend a ton of time in the field with my tribes, and we do this together. It's a team. So then at the end of the day, just really developing that strategy. So for your community vision, it's important to remember that like infrastructure is a means to an end, right? Like there's a purpose for infrastructure. And I think that a lot of times we forget that. We get all like excited about, you know, energy, EV stations, like get all jazzed up about this kind of stuff. But I think to bring it back, like really remembering it's a means to an end, you know, and that end is really driven by what are your community goals? What is your vision? And that needs to drive it. That needs to drive it. And if you don't have that, you really need to step back and go through that process and formalize that community vision in it. Otherwise, you have this ad hoc process where you have, you know, every department's doing something different. Community members, although you're part of the same community, you're all members. You know, one person's idea of their, you know, community vision is sometimes different from the. Usually, it's not like this huge difference, but there's some anomalies. So you have to work out those differences to make sure that you're kind of all on track, and that whatever projects you're doing are really aligned with where you want to go. Because otherwise, they're gonna get like, even if you have the funding and a couple people for it. The end of the day, when the administration changes, council changes, you lose key, like, you know, just rock star staff, everything is just gonna fall. It's all gonna fall through the cracks. If everybody doesn't have their fingerprints all over it, forget it. It's not worth it. So I know that we've talked a lot about this the last couple of days and today also, but, you know, really looking at how do you like maximize and how do you take advantage of that unique legal status that you have? I mean, as a tribal, you know, what do you guys have in common? You have in common that you're part of Indian country, right? And you have this historical, you know, long history of commonality. But at the end of the day, every single tribe is different. Are you a treaty tribe? Are you an executive order tribe? What is are you state recognized, or, you know, are you trying to get recognition? Like, where are you at? So making sure that you really evaluate that unique status, because that's where your value comes in, is your uniqueness, right? What makes you stand out? And then looking at the funding and technical assistance opportunities, you know, it's always great to hear about all the different programs that are available for this. And I know, you know, like when I was with the federal government, we provided top-notch. I mean, I'm doing the same thing as I was doing as a Fed with C renewal, but the difference is that I have to charge for it, right? There's the federal agencies have a ton of really good resources, you know, engineers, geophysicists, like all of it. And then now something that's kind of emerging since after I started C renewal is a lot of nonprofits out there that are doing really great work because they're able to get funding from the feds that really wasn't there, you know, a few years ago, honestly. So there's just a ton of resources. So to really evaluate what's available and maximize that, in addition to, you know, these internal expertise and tribal resources, looking at who do you have on staff? What are they doing? Are they in their best role? You know, could they be doing more? Do they want to do more? You know, really looking at that and identifying your future rock stars, your current rock stars, and your future, because otherwise, you know, you have this aging kind of staff that you're going to have all your infrastructure built, but now everyone's ready to retire and you don't have anyone coming up, right? Like you haven't done any succession planning. So making sure that like all of these pieces are into place in order to maximize those opportunities. So for the second learning objective, conducting assessments needed to prioritize energy projects. So this really gets at that boots on the ground. And like I said, you know, yes, you can hire, you know, you have someone like me or the other folks in the room and the technical assistance available people, but also, you know, this needs to be done internally or in coordination with, you know, planners and consultants. I mean, it's fundamental. It's a requisite. If I work with you, you've got to work with me. I'm not going to do this stuff on my own. period. Not going to do it. If the tribe doesn't work with me, like if we're not in it, if we're not like partners, it's not worth it because it's not going to get done. So that's where this like preliminary planning is critical. It's critical at the tribal level. You've got to have a tribal project leader. You have to have a champion that is a tribal staff, that is a tribal council member, that is, someone that belongs within the tribe, that works and coordinates with your TA people. I found that this task force or core planning team, I always do that with tribes. We develop, either council names, points, the task force or the core planning team. And then they really kind of guide the entire process. And in this event, it would be, identifying where you're at. What are your existing conditions and what do you want to prioritize for development? Your project goals come out of that, and those project goals should align with any existing plans that you have in place. And if they don't align with that, like if there's been a deviation, that's fine. You just got to identify it and identify why you have that deviation. And then communication, making sure that things are always communicated internally and externally, that everybody's on the same page. So when you do an inventory of your assets, right, your energy assets, looking at the current level of service, and your opportunities and threats around that, your strengths and weaknesses, how does the current level of service affect your strengths and weaknesses? If you have an energy distribution center system that is unreliable and expensive, how is that affecting you, right? How's that affecting your opportunities, and what are your strengths and weaknesses around that? How well do your community goals align with the current levels of service? Remembering that infrastructure is a means to an end. And then, of course, making, land use considerations. It was brought up earlier, highest and best use. Is this the highest and best use for these lands? And then regulations, your tribal, state, federal regulations. So this is just a kind of so this is part of an infrastructure plan. I took this from an infrastructure plan I did for the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma. But it outlines everything I just said, right? So it outlines your kind of your level of service. What's the function? What's the primary components? What are your needs? And it just kind of goes into everything in a formalized fashion. And I would encourage you, even if you're doing this internally, to formalize this stuff in a formalized format. And then it will help you to, when you're looking at all of your projects, it'll help you to really prioritize and identify what do you need. And then you can use this, repurpose this information for whenever you start applying, submitting applications or proposals, or, pitching it to council saying, okay, can we get that resolution? This is where we're at. Having this stuff formalized is really important. So these are just examples. And I pulled the energy, like this is energy efficiency, asset inventory, your community and utility, scale energy, and service profile, and then vehicle charging stations. That was one that they had identified as a potential opportunity, and then geothermal. So in this too, you want to do like preliminary asset, preliminary resource mapping in here. It's just kind of outlines. These are the federal resource, like high level federal resources. And again, this was based off of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or the bill, BIL, bipartisan infrastructure law. So, all of these align with that, but really identifying, what federal and state and lending. I have a couple CDFIs in there too. What are the options here for financing, and just really, so we know kind of moving into our strategy and our priorities, at least looking at it on the front end, what resources are out there. So in terms of where do you get this information? Again, it's primary and secondary data. You're going to get it internally from your existing plans, studies, and policies. You're going to look at, and these might be regional even documents because, and again, infrastructure by nature is large. It's meant to serve a lot of people, right? That's why it's so expensive. It's not meant to just serve a few people. It's meant to serve a lot of people. So looking at, especially for those larger infrastructure projects, look at your regional plans, look at the adjacent municipalities, look at what the state's doing. Take your stakeholder surveys, do meetings, and then an observation. I mean, maybe when you're developing, and by the way, if anyone wants it, you can just let me know and I'll give you, or I'll send you templates of like these service profiles, and I have spreadsheets, and then also you'll see later on kind of matrix where you can just kind of like plug and chug. So if you want that, just let me know and I'm happy to share it with you. But observation, when you're doing these service profiles, it's okay if you don't have preliminary engineering reports on everything. I mean, you can just look at the infrastructure and you don't even have to be an engineer. I know my former federal boss always liked to remind me I was an engineer. You don't have to be an engineer. You can just, be like a normal person like me and look at it and know like this needs work, or just as a user, you're getting knocked off, your electricity's going out all the time. Okay, so that just goes in your service profile. This is the information we have available. Simple as that. And then the third learning objective for today is prioritizing needs and maximizing opportunities. So this is really, and again, this is from that infrastructure plan I did for the Pawnee Nation. I developed this for that plan for them. But I think it's a good kind of way to start prioritizing where you start identifying the projects you have or the infrastructure you have, the level of service, and kind of where you need to go. And it identifies by need or importance and urgency. So I don't know if you guys, because I've been sitting in the back with the riffraff all this time, so I know you can't see the screen. But so I'm just going to read what this says. But and again, you're going to be checking like, okay, so this is for electric vehicles, say. And then you're going to say, this need addresses a risk to community health and safety. Check yes or no. This need will support meeting regulatory standards. Yes or no. This need supports multiple community goals or objectives. This need benefits many members of the community. Yes or no. This need will help build the community's capacity. Yes or no. This need addresses an existing issue. Yes or no. So then you have these levels, and this is really small. Again, this is from their plan. But what it does is it helps you to prioritize. So you have areas, where you have 3 yeses. So like this one was the advanced energy properties. They really wanted to do this like comprehensive energy investment, really doing really in-depth energy plans and really in-depth climate plans. That's clearly important to them, and it hits on like almost all of those importance factors. So that raises the urgency pretty high. So whenever you start to evaluate your project hierarchy or your priorities, that helps to give you an objective formula, right? You're not just like, I want to do electric vehicle stations because we want to do that. It's sexy, energy is awesome, so let's do that because everybody's doing it. This gives you an objective way to evaluate where you're at and where you want to go, and also to justify it. And then, for the different areas, but for all of their kind of areas that they wanted to hit on, I included those in these matrix. So I also included this. So for that infrastructure plan I did for them, we had energy and human resources, water, wastewater, transportation, and natural, like climate change. natural infrastructure. So energy and human resources are just like two of the components of that plan, and that's just what I pulled for this presentation since we're like focused on energy. But I wanted to make sure to hit on this human resources table because it's really important, you know, looking at staffing, planning, training, like all of these things. Do we need this? Yes. How important is it? Highly important. Is it going to help us meet regulatory standards? Yes. Does it meet a lot of community needs? Yes. Like it's all foundational, and it looks at really making sure that all these levels are hit, that staffing's properly compensated. Do you need to do a recruitment plan? How are you going to build the internal capacity to make sure that not only the systems, that the infrastructure is managed and operated by the tribe, but also that you're managing these programs and projects from within? So all of that information then goes into a priority table, which is this, and it's basically based off of, you know, your urgency, but it just informs that priority table. Again, this is just a tool that you can use to prioritize. It's not a hard and fast, like, because it's a level 1 doesn't mean it has to be a level 1 in your priority table, but it just is meant to guide you through that. And here they have, and again, I just pulled this from the Pawnee, but they identified, you know, that the community and utility scale is like level 1. Solar panels, pumps and lights, geothermal, level 2, and then down, you know, is vehicle charging stations and underground transmission lines and building upgrades. Now, with that said, so like vehicle charging stations, for example, is a level 3, and it's a level 3 really because it didn't hit a lot of these things. Like it just really, you know, is it going to meet, I guess the big one, is it going to meet a large, like most of your community's needs? Like, or most people are going to be using this? Not really. Is it going to help you meet regulatory requirements? Maybe, depending on where you live, but probably not. So, you know, that's kind of where that, why that fell into level 3. But with that said, if there's funding available and there's internal capacity and internal, like a political will to do it, then elevate it to level 1 whenever it makes sense. Like move these around. And then this is just an example of the project hierarchy that again is informed by all of those components that I just went through. And then you have your human resources. So in terms of the strategy, you know, you really look at everything that you've done. And again, I want to emphasize you can do this and should do this internally with your staff, outside of having someone assist you. But, you know, evaluate your preliminary, what was the results of the preliminary planning activities? What was the results of your inventory and service profile? You know, the results of your resource mapping and so on. And all of that will inform your strategy, how identify, you know, how you can leverage all of these things to maximize your benefits at the end of the day. And then our fourth objective, cool, sorry, I'm ahead of time. Our fourth objective is strengthening project implementation. And these are just kind of takeaways, I guess, but ensure good communication between decision makers and staff. As an example, the Pawnee Nation that I was telling you about, that I did that infrastructure plan, when I first started working with them, I met with you know, I'm there for like 3 days. I mean, I went back and forth a lot, but the first time I was there for like 3 days. And I met with council first thing in the morning from like, you know, 10 to noon, went to lunch with council, come back, and then on the agenda was the rest of the afternoon was going to be just staff. So just from the little bit I got from council and then being with staff, I could see there was a wide disconnect between what the business council's ideals were versus staff. You know, staff's like, you know, in a lot of ways we don't have the manpower to do this. You know, it's not technically feasible. Like, so I could see there was kind of a disconnect, and I asked staff, I said, would you be opposed to us changing the agenda and tomorrow bring you guys together, you and council. And the staff's like, I don't want to sit with council to do a meeting. Like, I like my job. I don't want to get fired. But it really worked. So I talked him into it, and it really worked out good. You know, we had like a whole day of just the staff and the council kind of working together and going through these, like, what are our priorities? You know, what are our needs? What are our goals? And the staff could say, we're actually working with the city on this, you know, and council didn't really know that. So it was a really good opportunity to increase that communication between the decision makers and staff, and also provided an opportunity for each to appreciate each other in a different way. Because I think a lot of times, I mean, council appreciates their staff and staff appreciates leadership, but sometimes it's different, right? Like it's I don't know, it's like a teacher and a student. Like, it's just, oh, you see your teacher in the grocery store and you're like, oh, they go to the grocery store? You know, it's like with council, you just don't, staff and council are just kind of in two different areas, but you're not, right? You're still all members, you're still part of the community. So bringing everyone together on a level playing field, and it really worked. And to this day, they still have, and this, I think I did this with them in like 2021, and I still work with them. I'm helping them to implement the plan, but you know, they have a task force in place. And it's all tribal. Like, they're just on that track. And council and staff, I think, in fact, I just had a discussion before I came here with the executive director, and she's like, we're just so on track. And she said, it's really exciting. We can just like feel it in the air, all these changes. But I mean, they're just like working like hand in hand, and it's really cool to see that. Formalizing your agreed on strategy, updating program plans. If you don't have departmental program plans, that's okay. And they don't need to be super elaborate, but start as a manager. And even if you're a manager in here, a department manager, or even staff, and it's not required of you, but you have kind of that ambition to do something and to try something, create a program plan internally, you know, that helps you to meet tribal goals. But really, if those are in place, follow them and update them regularly. And again, you know, continue to nurture strong relationships with your relevant federal partners. DOE's here, the division chief for Division of Energy and Mineral Development left yesterday, but these guys are awesome. Mike and Bobby are back here, and I mean, there's so much, and that's a lot of the reason why I started I mean, there was another reason, but the primary reason I started Renewal is because as a Fed, I saw this big gap, you know, this big need in kind of getting tribes to federal resources and helping to facilitate those conversations. And don't be afraid to call these guys. Like, they are on your side, and they're there. They have their jobs to serve you. Like, that's the purpose of them. And to remember that there is a federal obligation that's owed to you as a tribe. And I think a lot of times we overlook that. So play that card, because you earn that big time. So make sure that those federal obligations that are owed to you are enforced, because there's money on the table. I just went through that. I was telling someone about this earlier, but I just went through this with a tribe. You know, we got over $5 million that wasn't grant funds, that wasn't, you know, it was just, let's invite them, you know, EPA, IHS, USDA out so we can show them what's going on and say, we really need this money to update this system. And they committed to over $5 million on the spot. I gave those guys a hug at the lagoon system. But anyway, so it pays off to have these strong relationships with your federal partners. It really does. And then always refer to formalized strategies and plans when you submit requests for funding. I hit on this earlier, but do that. Include that. Scan it. Like, if it's in a printed plan, fine. Just scan it. Attach it with your application. It shows. And, you know, even if it was as simple, you know, as this one, like, it's just an excerpt, I don't know, like this, you know, it's just part of a plan. It was the inventory part. It doesn't outline goals. It just states, this is the existing conditions. include that, because that shows you went through a formalized process of evaluating what you have, and that increases the merit of the of your application, frankly. And anything, and as it was mentioned earlier, these are competitive grants, so you want to position yourself as competitively as possible. And then, oh, sorry. So yeah, and then invest in a trusted, I believe in this, invest in a trusted advisor to take the hits and keep things going. And that's a lot. You know, what I do for my clients is, you know, I'm doing boots on the ground, hands-on, like developing plans, helping them to implement programs, like being there, but I take a ton of hits for them. And that's why you hire people like me. Put me in front of, like, it's okay. Like, I can be the bad guy. Help, you know, I'm there. It helps to kind of like shift that a little bit, because sometimes you just need to have someone there to like shoot the gun out, right? Like, and that's me. That's what I'm there for. Yeah, and this is just a summary again. You know, making sure that you're just aligned with your community vision and goals. And if you don't have a formalized community vision and goals, really try to do that. Because otherwise all these projects are just ad hoc projects. You're just going to be chasing funds. They're not going to go anywhere. You know, you may get some traction, but they're likely not going to succeed. That's just the way that it is. These formal work plans and task force are critical. I'm working with a tribe in Northern California, and they're critical and they're painful at the same time, this preliminary planning process, but you have to do it. And when you develop these task force or core planning teams, make sure that every level of your community is participating. You have council on that task force. You have, if you have land commissioners, they're on that task force. Staff is on that task force. Community members at large are on that task force. And that it's just constantly, and you're constantly making sure that these people are involved. Because the more people that are involved in your work, the more fingerprints that are all over the stuff that you're doing, the less likely it is to get shelved when the new leadership comes in or when things change. Because everybody's been involved in it. They're not going to let that die. And then, yeah, just your internal inventory of where you're at. Yeah, so your decision matrix, your priority tables, those things. And again, you know, do these internally. And I guess that's why I just really wanted to provide this. I wish that I would have, you know, now that I've sat through all of these the last 2 days or 3 days, I wish that I would have done a presentation more on planning, like on legit planning, but I didn't. But I do have, there are a lot of like recorded presentations that I've done over the last few years. So if you want to see like on comprehensive planning and different approaches, zoning, those kinds of things, just let me know and I can share that information with you. But this is me. This is C-Renewal. I'm really excited. It's been, you know, like this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, starting C-Renewal. But it's been fun. And I'm really excited to have a footprint business. And I'm, so yeah. And if you're ever in Ruidoso visiting the Mescalero or anybody else, or going skiing or visiting all the shops, smoking pot, I can't believe how many pot shops are there. It's insane. Totally insane. I don't partake, but it's really crazy. But anyway, so if you're ever there, just let me know. Stop by. And any questions or group discussion, like if anyone has any examples of what they're doing, you know, at their tribe internally, and you want to share that, please do for the group, because I know we always like hearing about, you know, what our other communities are doing.
So you're saying we can't come down and smoke weed with you? You don't partake? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not opposed to you smoking
right.
weed. I just won't. I'll be there.
How
do you? I didn't inhale.
Yeah.
Is that how it is?
She'll probably be standing right next to you.
Right.
No, I'm just joking.
Be like.
Okay. Any questions, real quick? This is really good. I really appreciate this very much. Any questions? Any questions? Because I think what I really appreciate about your presentation is like how important it is to have a relationship with tribes, whether it's, whether you're native or non-native, it doesn't matter, to have those relationship with tribes. And you brought, I like your takeaways because like sometimes like and y'all may go through this, but sometimes like in our tribal elections or whatever it may be, leadership may change. Well, then it's like that leadership erases everybody and does this. And that's why we have a high turnover rate in Indian country, because it's just like we're always, switching things out. And you ever experienced something like that? Or
no, you're totally right. And I think the continuity is what's key. And that's what I was saying about the work task force and work plan. So you have to have these groups that have their fingerprints all over it. I worked with a tribe in California and Alaska for almost 10 years now, and I've seen at least 4, maybe 5 tribal administrations change. But everyone at the table, whether they agree or not, and they have kind of different ideas, they've stayed on track. And these people have been through some crap. I mean, they've really had some stuff thrown at them, but they've all managed. And I'm still there with them, right? Like I'm their biggest fan, and they know it, and they'll know that I will do anything for them. I will go to bat. I will take whatever hits that I have to for them because they're my people. I mean, I love that tribe. I love all of my tribes, and I feel very fortunate to work with them. But yeah, just making sure that continuity is there so things don't go off the rails.
Yeah, and that's good. And I like what she said. She said, my people, and that's so true, because it's like I've always tell this to people, and I'm sure I said this before, and I don't want to take away, but if you live in our community, if you work in our community, if you serve our community, you are our community. I'm sure a lot of tribes are like that with you, so that's good.
I'm really fortunate. And I'm going to be going to California for a couple weeks. I was only supposed to go for I think that trip was supposed to be 4 days or something. And I'm like, I really need to be out here for 2 weeks next time. I was just there in December, but I'm like, next time I really need to figure out how to be here for 2 weeks. And one of the council members you can stay at my house, and the planning director, you stay at my house, and the other lady, there's just a member, you stay at my house. So it's just cool. I feel so fortunate that you all let me in.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Really great presentation.
Thank
you. I'm not of tribal origin, but in working and interfacing, you always hear of stakeholders from the outside not understanding the importance of tribal ways and the value that places and how tribes do business and operate. Can you kind of expound on potentially the importance of instilling this understanding from the embryonic planning stages? Mm-hmm. Because essentially that, and what we've seen, that may not always be evident at the start when someone's doing a study, but maybe not understanding all those, let's say, input variables, essentially, as you said, can have an impact on the output at the end. But can you kind of expound a little on just the importance from that planning side of instilling, as best we can?
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for the question. And yes, so you can't have a clinical approach. There's, just in general planning, there's no cookie cutter. I mean, you have planning methodologies that you have to follow, but there's just no cookie cutter process, and it can't be clinical. You have to, as an outsider, I go in with the utmost respect, and I'm treated, I'm sure that you guys can imagine, I've been through, it's hard sometimes, but I don't care. I am going to be respectful. That's all there is to it. And at the end, it all works out, and sometimes it's a faster process than others where you're accepted. And I've almost had to walk away from projects but I didn't, because then I'll say I'm out, and you have the 90% of council that's for you and the 10% that's against you when you say I'm out, because I need to be on your team, and we're not on the team right now. And this isn't worth it. I don't care if you're paying my bottom dollar rate or for free. I do a ton of in-kind work. But yeah, so okay. But yeah, so I don't care if I'm doing in-kind or my bottom rate or my top rate. if we're not in this, like if it's not working, I'm out, because it's a waste of your time, your money. It's a waste of my energy. Like I put my life, I work 17 hours a day and I love it. And I love it because I'm working with people to move things forward in a way that they want those things to move forward. But it's not worth it to me if I'm going to get this pushback, you know? So I go in just like I am right now. It's just straight shooter, right? And full on respectful. But yeah, and sometimes, and you can't push it. You can't be on a time clock. There's no time clock in Indian country. You have to do it based on the speed in which the tribe wants to go, and that's okay. It works, and it works out.
Now, I'm sure you already answered this. Do you do a lot of HR trainings where you can just go into communities and do like a day-long HR training or something like that?
Yeah, I do that, and I want to move towards that too with Siri Knoll, because I have my office now. I want to be able to invite people there, but I do a lot of like just customized training.
Wow. Well, thank you. Oh, okay. Coming back here. Good. Yeah. We're going to try to stay away from that pro bono stuff, you know, because
I do. It's
your
like,
mortgage isn't pro bono and your nice office ain't pro bono.
this
so,
is for real.
right?
Yeah, I'm lucky. You know, I always say I'm lucky I don't have a partner, because they'd hate me. They'd be like, "What's going on here?"
Hi, my name's Eugene. I'm with the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe. I just had a little perspective on that. We've been developing a climate change action plan, and the way that we started was to hire an outside contractor who we're a big fan of. He's a great guy, but he wasn't necessarily up to this task. He wasn't a member. He came in from the outside with a template that was designed for cities. We thought we were going to be able to adapt that on the go. I'm sure a lot of you already know where this is going. And it did not work. We brought it to the community after we'd polished it and changed it, and they saw right through the bullshit. This is designed for cities. This is not of or for us. And it halted all engagement with the project. Nobody wanted to participate. So now we've had to fall back and admit to ourselves that we're going to have to totally redesign it from the ground up. So that was kind of a hard one lesson for us. Just wanted to put that out there, and if anybody has any advice for me or any indigenous contractors who might want some work, let me know.
Is that why y'all didn't call me back? No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
But yeah, you need to make it your own. You can't do these things based on a cookie. I can't tell you how many, and I've actually had tribes let go of their native firms to hire me in mid-project and to dismantle everything that was done and start over because of just what you said. And it doesn't matter if they're a native firm or if they're a white firm or if they're a Middle Eastern firm. It doesn't matter. These things have to be customized to you. Otherwise, they need to be dismantled. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. You get in, you get out what you put in. That's all there is to it. And I don't care what background you come from, right? If you don't work hard, it's never going to happen, ever.
That's true. Man, good stuff. Man, good conversation. Man, just think, I wasn't even gonna let her speak, but boy, she got up there and spoke. Give her another round of applause, man. Let her hear you. Let her hear you.
Thank you.
And Amy, I'm sorry about that, man. What is wrong with me? You
got
did good.
Sandwiches on the mind.
I know. I had sandwiches on my mind and everything else. So now, listen. When we come back here, like I said, we're gonna stick to that agenda the best that we can. When we come back here afterwards, we're gonna have Tim. And also, Dave is going to be joining him. Okay, so we're going to kick that right off right at 1:30. So we got some time to socialize on that, but we will kick off right at 1:30. Sean, go ahead, boss.
I'm the last guy on the agenda. Oh. Invite you all to stay until the very end. You gotta leave.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know if the organization has a plan to do a group picture. I think photos are powerful, and this conference has been powerful. So I don't know if that's in the agenda, you know, pretty pictures of all of me, you know, and you, of course. So, yeah.
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 Yeah, and also while he's giving commercials for his presentation coming up at the end, hey, don't forget we have these little things out in the hotel lobby, like this one example. Hey, you know what? Here, plug it real quick. Get ready, y'all. Plug it real quick. Go here. Plug it. Ready? We got 1 second. Plug it.
Just a reminder from yesterday, the Alliance for Tribal Clean Energy would love to welcome all of you to our Tribal Energy Equity Summit in Tulsa, sponsored by the Muskogee Nation's beautiful River Spirit Hotel. It's the 18th to 22nd of March. I got cards right here with the information. Our registration is open on our website, and hope to see you guys there. I'll just pass these back. Our wonderful special guest Chance will be there to help us from emceeing, so please come.
I'm excited. Okay, we got come up here real quick, and then okay, here we go.
Hi everyone, my name is Tungshi Klerma. I am Rosebud Sioux Tribe in Siston-Wapton, Dakota. I am with Grid Alternatives National Tribal Program. So I co-lead this national program that began about 14 years ago. We're in partnership with organizations like Alliance for Tribal Clean Energy. But I handed some of these out. There's a QR code. Go ahead and check out kind of some of the services that we offer. We have a traveling tribal construction installation team. We also have a lot of workforce development and leadership program opportunities. I know DOE kind of spoke about their Clean Energy Innovators Fellowship. We have a Tribal Energy Innovators Fellowship. I think they stole kind of our title. Just kidding. No, but we have a lot of opportunities. We have grant opportunities as well for tribes. They're not that competitive. We fund about 48% of all applications that come through. So please check us out. Thank you.
Good. All right, thank you. Anyone else here real quick? Any events coming up or anything like that? Are we doing an event anywhere? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Let's go.
So this month, February 27th and 28th, and including 26th, there's some listening sessions as well. But in Temecula, California, Pechanga, we are having the Office of Indian Energy, Department of Energy, Clean Energy Summit. Yep, and so we got flyers around here, and so folks are invited to come to that. It's primarily going to be folks from tribes on the panel speaking. And so there's not going to be heavy presentations from federal staff and things like that. We want to make sure that tribal voices are elevated. And so encourage everyone to come out.
Hey, thanks, Doctor. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Good? We're good? All right. Hey, listen, y'all want to do this real quick? We're going to have lunch, but I know some of y'all are going to you're going to eat and then leave. No, I'm just joking. You're not going to. You better not do that. But if you want to do what? You want to do it now or do you want to do it after lunch? Okay. Okay, so after lunch, at some point, we're gonna do a quick picture. Okay, so are we good with that? Because I know maybe like during a quick break, after one of the breaks, we'll take a quick picture. But you guys go have lunch, man. We'll see you guys here 1:30. Oh, man, she let you out 5 minutes early. Oh my goodness. Now we really don't have another speaker, so go eat lunch.